Hey there, this is Aminta, your host for the Community Partners for Healthy Streams podcast. Each new episode features a new topic about preventing water pollution and saving water at your workplace. And for this month's episode, we are featuring one of my favorite places in the world, restaurants. Yes, food is a haven. It's a place of gathering, a source of comfort and nourishment. It's also where many of us work. A large number of us in Cobb County either work in a restaurant, work in the hospitality industry, or in another aspect of food and beverage. If you work in a restaurant, a bakery, in catering or manufacturing, this episode is for you. We'll be exploring today ways in which restaurants help to prevent water pollution at their site. And for today's episode, I would like to reintroduce to you Cara Mooty, our guest expert. She is a stormwater compliance inspector for Cobb County Water System. Thank you so much, Cara, for returning to our podcast series.
Hello. Thank you for having me again. It's great to be here.
Awesome. So for today's topic, we're putting the spotlight on restaurants. There are, as you know, all sorts of different types of businesses that prepare food and bev for people. Are there main areas to look out for as potential sources of water pollution at a restaurant?
That's a good question. There are three main areas I would be mindful of and pay attention to. That's dumpsters, used grease containers, and wastewater buckets. When these three aspects are well taken care of, that restaurant is well on its way to helping protect our streams, rivers, and creeks.
So let's start off with dumpsters then. Could you tell us more about them? What are some do's that we should be practicing, and how do they help protect our water resources?
Sure. To start off with, make sure you keep the lids and any openings on the dumpsters closed and keep the area free of trash and debris. Open dumpsters can collect rainwater, which mixes with the contaminants in the garbage, and this runs the risk of leaking out, which will eventually make its way to a storm drain, a direct link to a local stream, creek, or lake.
Yes, I see. Oftentimes, we think or assume that the rainwater that flows past a storm drain goes to the sewer and gets treated in some way. But it is important to point out that stormwater traveling via a storm drain does not get treated.
Yes, and that's also an important aspect as to why wastewater buckets and how we clean and dump them is important as well. Believe it or not, people have dumped their mop buckets down the storm drain because they believe it goes into the sewer, but they go to our streams, rivers, and lakes. Mop buckets of wastewater should be emptied into a sink connected to the sanitary sewer system.
And what about grease containers? First, could you explain what they are?
Well, grease containers are above ground storage containers which are used to hold grease and oil. And they can often be found outdoors. Typically, a company is hired or contracted to pick up the grease and oil in these containers for either recycling or proper disposal.
And I've also heard about grease traps. Is there a difference between a grease container versus a grease trap?
Yes, they're both important because they serve the same function, but they're built differently. Grease traps are in the ground, whereas grease containers are above the ground.
So I know that fats, oils, and grease is a very broad, large topic. So we'll save the topic of grease traps and the broader topic of fog for its own separate episode in the future. So listeners, stay tuned for that. I want to hone in on above ground grease containers. In terms of above ground grease containers, what should we do to take care of them?
Well, to clean and maintain used grease containers, I recommend the dry method. And it's only got 3 steps, so it's really easy to remember. Just make sure to scrape up spills and grease deposits off of the area, and sweep the scrape deposits into a bag, and finally dispose of the bag properly in the trash facility. Scrape, sweep, and dispose. In addition to proper maintenance, it's also important to make sure that your container has a lid with a good seal on it and that it isn't leaking. If it's showing signs of rust or wear and tear, it's best to replace it.
That's all the time we have today. Thank you so much, Cara, for your advice and expertise as always. If you have questions or would like to learn more, please visit our website at www.cobbstreams.org and find our CPH podcast webpage. We'll see you all next month, same day, same time, with a new topic. Bye! The intro and outro music titled Easy Living is by Agnes Valmagia under the Creative Commons 4 license. To visit online, go to filmmusic.io/song/6832-easy-living, and for the license, go to creativecommons.org/licenses/by/4.0.